Today's learning design tip relates to fixed aspects of a curriculum. If you're teaching a course that requires the learner to demonstrate competency in a particular kind of skill, it might be a good idea to create a walkthrough video where you demonstrate the steps that the learner needs to take in order to accomplish this skill. Course content can change over time as a result of new ideas emerging, more up-to-date information, and perhaps policy changes. So in order to be efficient in your curriculum design, it can be a good idea to separate out the fixed aspects of the course, such as the skills which are unlikely to change, as opposed to the content which might change. And then by doing this, you're creating a recorded asset that the learner can access at a time and a pace that suits them. This idea feeds into the Universal Design for Learning Principles and Keller's personalised system of instruction. The example I have for you today is from a politics course. It demonstrates in video format the steps the learner would need to take when analysing sources. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. In this video, we are going to explore how we can approach the 8-mark source question that appears in Paper 2 of the Higher Politics exam. Paper 2 is made up of two types of source question: the 8-mark source question, which is text-based and requires comparative analysis. The second source question is worth 20 marks and requires data handling skills. A separate video lesson is devoted to this source skill. Neither of the source questions require background knowledge and may include aspects of the course content that you have not covered or choose not to revise for the final exam. The time allocated to Paper 2 in the final exam is 1 hour and 15 minutes. This means that the 8-mark source question should take around 21 minutes to complete under exam conditions. Let us now turn our attention to this source question from the 2017 past paper, which you can access on the SQA website or from the link that's been shared with you. The SQA requires that candidates demonstrate that they can make accurate comparisons and draw valid conclusions. So much like when we write analytical comments in the 12 and 20-mark essay responses, we will need to do the same thing here. You will remember that analytical comments may involve identifying areas of difference, identifying areas of similarity, making evaluative comments on the extent of these differences and similarities, and commenting on the consequences of these differences and similarities. It is worth bearing this in mind as we read the information in the sources. So let us turn to the question first. The question asks us to compare the cases for direct and representative democracy. It also tells us that we must identify 3 points of comparison. We should think about themes, aspects or features when we are trying to identify these 3 points of comparison. The final instruction given in the question is to reach an overall conclusion about what we have read about direct and representative democracy. It may be tempting to add in our own knowledge here, but since this will not be credited, this is not advisable. Let's begin by reading the first paragraph in Source A, which presents the case for direct democracy. As you listen to me read it, or read along yourself, try to think of one word that sums up what the paragraph is referring to. Our next step is to draw connecting lines between each of the points of comparison. We will tackle the overall conclusion at the end of the process. Next, we need to construct our written response, and the following technique will help you to focus on the requirements of the question. So our first step is that we need to identify the theme of comparison. That is the word that we've used to identify the main theme of each paragraph. Then we need to select evidence from source A and then source B that reflect this theme. These were the points that we've already highlighted. And finally, we need to analyse what this evidence tells us about direct democracy and representative democracy in terms of their effectiveness as forms of democracy. We need to follow this structure 3 times for each point of comparison. We could use the mnemonic TABA, T-A-B-A, to help us remember this structure, where T stands for theme, A stands for source A, B stands for source B, and A stands for analysis. So let's begin constructing the answer. One comparison that can be made about direct and representative democracy relates to the theme of practicality.